The town was too quiet, not the peaceful quiet of a sleeping city, or the eerie stillness before a storm. This was something else, something wrong. The street stretched out, empty and untouched. Storefronts remained frozen in time. The same newspapers, dated 3 days ago, sat stacked outside the corner kiosk, yellowing at the edges. The gas station's neon sign flickered, its hum the only sound in the air. And then there was the mirror, a massive, dust-covered thing standing alone in the center of the town square. Its frame was cracked, aged by time, the glass warped in places. It shouldn't have been there. It didn't belong. At first, it seemed like nothing more than an old relic, a forgotten piece of furniture left to decay like the rest of this place. But then, Fred, Daphne, Velma, and Shaggy saw their reflections. Scooby didn't. Velma took a step forward, adjusting her glasses. "Wait a second," she murmured. She turned to Scooby. He was right there, ears perked, tail stiff, staring at the glass, just like they were. But in the mirror, nothing. No shadow, no outline, just empty space. Shaggy took a slow step back. Guys? What kind of funhouse horror is this?" Daphne hesitated, reaching out, her fingers barely brushing against the mirror surface. It was cold, too cold. Fred's jaw tightened, his blue eyes narrowing. Maybe it's some kind of trick. Velma shook her head. "That's not how mirrors work, Fred." Then the air shifted, grew heavier, colder. The sky overhead, once a dull gray, looked off, like a painting flat, artificial. And then a building flickered. Just for a second, one of the old shops along the street vanished, erased like a smudged pencil mark. Then it was back, but different. The windows weren't the same. The bricks had changed color, like a glitch in reality. Daphne stepped away from the mirror, her fingers curling into a fist. "We need to leave. Now." Velma exhaled sharply, eyes scanning the square. "Number? We need to figure out what's happening. This town, it's not real." Shaggy's voice dropped to a whisper. "I think that's the problem, man. I think we never left." Then they saw it. Movement, not in the real world. Inside the mirror, their reflections were moving, but not the way they were. Daphne turned her head. In the mirror, she didn't. Fred raised a hand, but his reflection stood still. Then Shaggy's reflection grinned. None of them were smiling. The silence around them thickened, pressing in from all sides. Velma pressed her fingers to her temples, trying to think. "This isn't possible. We walked in. We explored the town. She stopped. Had they? She tried to recall the drive, the road leading here, the moment they first stepped into town. But there was nothing. No memory. Just blank spaces where details should have been. Daphne closed her eyes. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "We never arrived." Fred frowned. "What do you mean?" Daphne swallowed hard. "Because we were already here." The words settled like lead in their chests. And then, the mirror shattered. The mirror shattered. Glass flew in all directions, but there was no sound, no sharp crack, no shattering echo. The pieces hit the ground and vanished, like they had never existed at all. Fred, Daphne, Velma, and Shaggy stood frozen, staring at the empty frame where the mirror once stood. And then, the world changed. The town flickered like a bad signal on an old television. Buildings blurred, shifting between forms, colors bleeding into one another. The street beneath them rippled, as if the ground itself was just a thin film stretched over something else. Daphne gasped. "Look!" Across the street stood another town, identical, yet different. The same shops, the same streets, but wrong. The once rusted and broken clock tower stood pristine. The parked cars, dusty just moments ago, now gleamed as if brand new. Shaggy stumbled back, eyes darting wildly. "Man, I don't like this. It's like the past and the present are crashing into each other." Velma adjusted her glasses, hands shaking. "That's because they are. The timeline is unstable. We aren't just in a town. We're inside something else." Fred clenched his fists. "So what do we do? Just stand here until we fade away with it?" Daphne didn't answer, because she remembered. She had seen this before. She had been here before. They moved cautiously, weaving through the dissolving town, the air thick with the scent of burning, but there was no fire. Shops blinked in and out of existence, shifting from modern to abandoned to something even older. Velma stopped in front of a newspaper stand. The papers had changed. The frozen dates were gone, replaced by years spanning decades. The latest issue read 1965. She ran her fingers over the pages. The ink smudged like it was still being written. Shaggy's voice wavered. "Guys, I think we're trapped between times." Fred exhaled sharply. "Then we need to get out before we disappear into one of them." Daphne's eyes locked onto the reflection of the town in the distance. The perfect version. The one that wasn't breaking apart. "That's not another version of the town." Velma turned to her. "What?" Daphne's voice dropped to a whisper. "That's the real one." They ran. The streets cracked like ice beneath their feet, revealing a dark void underneath. The buildings flickered between real and something drawn, like sketches on aging paper. And then they saw them, standing at the end of the road, versions of themselves, dressed exactly the same, staring back. Shaggy clutched Fred's arm. "Okay, I'm officially done with this man." Velma's voice was hoarse. "Those aren't us." Fred stepped forward. "Then what are they?" The figures didn't move, just stood there, their expressions vacant. But Daphne knew, because she had seen them before. "Not what?" She swallowed hard. "When?" Fred turned to her, jaw clenched. "What do you mean?" Daphne hesitated, then whispered, "They're us, but from before." Fred's breath hitched. "Before what?" Daphne's blue eyes darkened, filled with something she had been holding back since they first saw the mirror. "Before we forgot." The town collapsed. The sky folded into itself, and the past caught up. If we were never who we thought we were, then who are we now? The city was gone. Not destroyed, not abandoned, just gone. No streets, no buildings, no sky. Only an endless, featureless void stretching in all directions. And in that nothingness, they stood four figures, frozen in place, identical to Fred, Daphne, Velma, and Shaggy. They weren't reflections. They weren't shadows. They were real. Fred swallowed hard, his throat dry. "This isn't possible." The other Fred, the one standing directly in front of him, stared back. Same piercing blue eyes, same golden hair, but his face was vacant, expressionless. Velma adjusted her glasses, her breath shaky. "Are we looking at alternate versions of ourselves?" Daphne didn't speak. She didn't have to. She already knew. Shaggy's voice wavered. "If they're us, then what happened to them?" Cautiously, they moved forward. The second Velma, identical in every way, clutched something, an old notebook, its cover worn and the pages yellowed. Velma hesitated before reaching for it. The moment she touched it, the world shifted. A memory flooded in. She saw herself, standing in this exact spot, holding the same notebook, again and again and again. A cycle, a story on repeat. The words scrawled across the pages were hers, hurried and uneven. "You have to leave. You have to get out before it happens again." Her pulse pounded. Again? She flipped through the pages, fingers trembling. We arrived in the city. Something was wrong. The buildings were too perfect, too still. Time wasn't moving. We found the mirror. Scooby's reflection wasn't there. The city began to break apart. I think we're inside something else. We saw them, copies of us. They weren't moving, but they weren't dead. We are the copies. The book slipped from her hands. Velma staggered back. Daphne clenched her fists. "We've done this before." Fred took a slow breath. "Then why don't we remember?" The figures blinked, and then, for the first time, they moved. The second Fred opened his mouth, his voice a perfect mirror of Fred's own. "You can't leave." Shaggy's fists clenched. "Like, the hell we can't, man." Fred stepped forward, his jaw tight. "Who are you?" His copy stared back. "I am you." The second Velma took a slow step closer, her voice unmistakably Velma's. "But not the first you." Daphne's breath caught. "Then who was?" Her copy tilted her head. "Does it matter?" The duplicates advanced. Fred's heartbeat thundered in his ears. Stay back! The second Fred didn't stop. You've done this before. You've failed before. Shaggy pulled Scooby closer. Yeah? Well, maybe this time we win. The second, Daphne shook her head. It's not about winning. Her voice softened. It's about remembering. Daphne exhaled sharply. We remember the city wasn't real. We remember the cycle. So tell us. She stepped forward. What happens next? The second Daphne smiled. Next? She leaned in. Next, you forget again. The void shattered. Darkness collapsed inward, swallowing everything. The notebook in Velma's hands burned away. Their copies vanished. And then, nothing. Only a whisper, curling through the emptiness. If we were never who we thought we were, then who are we now? Silence, then breathing. Shallow, uneven. Daphne's eyes flickered open. She was standing. The others were beside her. Fred, Velma, Shaggy, Scooby, all frozen in place, staring straight ahead. At a mirror. The mirror. They were back in the center of town. Like nothing had ever happened. Like they had never left. The buildings were intact. The streets lay undisturbed. The town looked exactly as it had when they first arrived. But Daphne knew. It wasn't real. It had never been real. She pressed a hand to her forehead, willing herself to breathe steadily. Echoes of the void still whispered in her ears, remnants of the copies, the burning pages of Velma's notebook. Her notebook. They had done this before, and they had forgotten. Again. Fred exhaled sharply, shaking his head. This isn't right. Velma adjusted her glasses, fingers tightening around the frame. I know this feeling. Like déjà vu. Shaggy swallowed hard. Didn't we just? His voice faltered. Because he couldn't remember. Daphne clenched her fists. We need to get out. Now. Fred turned to her, brows knitting together. What? We just got here. Her chest constricted. She could see it in his eyes. He didn't remember. None of them did. She looked down at her hands. They trembled. Because this was it. The final loop. The last chance to break free. Or forget. Forever. The mirror shifted. The reflection was wrong. At first it seemed normal. Fred, Velma, Shaggy, Daphne. But then, Scooby wasn't there. Just like before. Daphne took a step back. Number. Not just like before. Because this time, there was something else. A figure. Behind them. Tall, hollow, faceless, watching. Velma gasped, stepping away from the glass. That's... The figure moved. A jagged, unnatural motion. Fred reacted instinctively, his hand gripping Daphne's wrist. Run! The town glitched. Buildings flickered. Streets melted into static. The sky cracked apart, revealing an endless void. And then, the world collapsed. They were falling. Not through space. Not through time. Through memory. Flashes of the past streaked by. The first time they arrived, the first time they saw the mirror, the first time they realized they were trapped. Over and over. Hundreds of times. Thousands. Blurring together. Forgotten. Until now, Daphne clenched her jaw. Not this time. Not again. She forced herself to move. To reach out. To grab onto reality. She wouldn't forget. She refused. And then, everything stopped. She opened her eyes. The others were with her. Not in the town. Not in the void. Somewhere else. A place that felt real. But the mirror was still there. Waiting. And in the reflection, they weren't standing. They were frozen. Like statues. Like echoes. Like they had never left at all. Fred's voice was barely above a whisper. If we were never who we thought we were. Daphne's hands clenched at her sides. Fred turned to her. Then who are we now? She didn't answer. Because she didn't know. And neither did they. The mirror cracked. The loop was broken. Or was it? Stillness. Not the calm, comforting kind. The kind that feels wrong as if the world had stopped breathing. Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby stood together, The mirror was gone. The town was gone. No streets, no sky, no time. Just a vast, endless expanse of nothing. But then, a sound, not from around them, from inside them, a voice, their own. Fred turned first. There, just a few feet away, stood another Fred. Not a copy, not a reflection. It was him, except different. Eyes hollow, expression empty. Then another Velma, another Shaggy, another Daphne, frozen, watching. Daphne's breath hitched. This isn't real. Shaggy swallowed hard, his voice unsteady. I don't know, man. Sure feels real. Velma's fingers dug into her sleeves. They're us. From before. From every time we've been here. Fred clenched his fists. Then why are they just standing there? The second Fred blinked. Because we were waiting. The words sent a chill through the air. Not an echo. A response. Shaggy took a slow step back. Yeah, no. Not doing this. The second Shaggy tilted his head. You already did. Velma's heart pounded. You remember? The second Velma nodded. We never forgot. The silence was suffocating. Daphne's stomach twisted. She had known something wasn't right. She had felt it since the moment they arrived. Now, standing here looking at themselves, she understood. We've been here before. Fred's voice was tight. But we don't remember. The second Fred smiled. You do remember. He took a slow step forward. You just forgot that you did. The words twisted in Daphne's mind, pulling at something buried deep, something she wasn't ready to face. Fred exhaled sharply. Then tell us, what are we supposed to do? The second Velma shook her head. There is no supposed to. She looked directly at Daphne. You already made your choice. Daphne stiffened. What choice? The second Daphne took a step forward. The choice you make every time. The air shifted. The world rippled. And then everything crashed down. The past, the present, the echoes of themselves, flashes of every cycle, every decision, every moment where they thought they were escaping, but they weren't, because they never left, because they never could. Because Daphne, she had known. She had always known. And every time, she had chosen to forget. Her breath came in short gasps. Fred grabbed her arm. Daphne, what's happening? She couldn't answer, because she was finally remembering. Everything, every loop, every failure. And the truth, the one thing she had been running from. She turned to face them, and in their eyes she saw the truth. Not shock, not confusion, recognition. They had remembered before. They had chosen to forget. And now, it was happening again. The second Fred, Velma, Shaggy, and Daphne stepped back. The air pulled them apart. The echoes of themselves began to fade. Velma reached for the notebook, but it was gone. Shaggy clutched Scooby's furbit. Scooby was already disappearing. Daphne clenched her fists. Number. Fred turned to her. Know what? She stared ahead, watching as their echoes dissolved, watching as the cycle prepared to start again. And then she made her choice. This time she wouldn't forget. She refused to forget. The second Daphne locked eyes with her. You don't have to. The last words before she vanished. And with it, the loop collapsed. Stillness. Not the absence of movement. Not the silence before a storm. This was something else. Something wrong. The loop was gone. The town was gone. But they were still there. Fred, Velma, Shaggy, Scooby, Daphne, standing in nothingness. No ground beneath their feet. No sky above them. Just an endless void. And for the first time, no copies, no echoes, no cycle waiting to start again. Just them. Fred turned in slow circles, his blue eyes scanning the empty abyss. This isn't real. Velma swallowed hard. It's more real than anything else has been. Shaggy rubbed his arms. Man, I'd rather be stuck in the fake town than here. Scooby whimpered, pressing against him. Daphne didn't move, because she finally understood. She had fought so hard to forget. Every time, she had chosen the lie, the town, the false escape. But this time, she had remembered, and this was what remembering looked like. A world where nothing remained, where the truth had erased everything else. She exhaled, steadying herself. It's over. Fred turned to her, his jaw tightening. What do you mean it's over? Where are we? She met his gaze. And for the first time, she told the truth. This is where we've always been. Velma inhaled sharply, her mind racing. No, we came here, we arrived, we investigated, Daphne cut her off. Did we? Velma blinked. Fred opened his mouth to argue. And then he realized he couldn't remember. Not how they got here. Not what had come before. Because there was nothing before. Shaggy's breath came in shallow gasps. That's not possible, man. We've been through so much. Daphne shook her head. We've been through the same thing. Over and over. Because that's what we were meant to do. To keep playing the same roles, solving the same mystery. She took a step forward. But the mystery was never the town. She looked at them. It was us. The void rippled. Velma staggered back. Fred clenched his fists. Shaggy let out a shaky breath. Scooby growled low. And then they saw it. The real reflection. Not in a mirror. Not in a window. But in the nothingness itself. Images forming out of the dark. Not of the town. Not of echoes. Of them. Their own lives. Not as they remembered. As they were. Fred's heart pounded. That's... Shaggy shook his head. No, that's not right, man. That's not me. Velma's voice was a whisper. It is. Because there, reflected back at them, were not the people they thought they were. Not investigators. Not detectives. Not the Mystery Inc. gang. Something else entirely. Something made. Something designed. They weren't real. Daphne closed her eyes. She had always known. Or at least some part of her had. That was why she had chosen to forget. Because the truth was too much. Too impossible. Too final. But now, she remembered. And she couldn't unsee it. None of them could. Fred's hands were shaking. Then what happens now? Daphne looked at him. At Velma. At Shaggy. At Scooby. And she spoke the only truth that mattered. We wake up. The void collapsed. The world reset. And then, nothing. Just darkness. And a whisper. If we were never who we thought we were, then who are we now?